Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernst Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Today, me and Austin Williams previewed the schedule for the Louisville Cardinals in 2023 in college football, and we give our record predictions for Louisville as well. But you talk about the fact that there's a lot of teams that have hard schedules that make it very difficult for them to win games. Well, the good thing for Louisville is that they have a lot of teams that they can beat. That they have a lot of teams that they're about 50-50 with. I think that's really going to help, looking at these games. And they start out with a very winnable game. But for you all looking at this schedule, how do you feel about Louisville's 2023 schedule and how it sets up for the season?
So right off the bat, I want to point out to you, I do not like the fact that we go at NC State, then we get Notre Dame at home, and then we go at Pittsburgh. Woof. Yeah. And then to follow it up with a very good Duke team, oh boy. Yeah, the first half of the schedule up to Boston College, we could start 4-0. That's very attainable. Then everybody on from NC State to Duke is where the rough stretch really begins. And the important thing is here. Then after that, you get Virginia Tech. We should be able to handle business there. And then we get Miami and Kentucky. So it's very interesting. I will say if I was to give you a game-by-game prediction, which if you go check the ACC predictions out on my channel, I had us going 8-4 and 5-3 in conference. Not to spoil the segment for later, but first game of the season, Georgia Tech, very attainable win. Murray State, very attainable. I think we should win that. Indiana, I think we should win, but it could be also going the other way in favor of your Hoosiers, just for the fact of Tom Allen knows Jeff Brohm, and he knows what he likes to do, and that could be a big advantage in Indiana's favor. Boston College, they beat us last year, right? I think since they're coming to the Ville, I think we get them. At NC State, I don't think we're going to go up to Raleigh and beat them. I don't see that. Then Notre Dame, that's going to be the biggest game of our season, arguably, because if we want to be ranked at all, this more than likely is going to decide whether we're ranked or not. Because NC State, they could be ranked, could not, because last year they did get hit with the injury bug, and it caused them to drop out towards the end. Notre Dame, as long as they have no major slip-ups, they should be relatively in the top 15, maybe top 10, if they can win all the winnable games and then just lose the big three. And then at Pittsburgh, that's the game I'm not looking forward to, because for one simple reason, let's say we beat Notre Dame, then we got to go at Pitt. Are we going to be ready to play? And at Pitt, that is a tough environment. That's not talked about enough. Especially if it's at night, oh boy, you're. It's almost like going to LSU or going to Tuscaloosa at night. Not quite, but there's an environment there that you just have to be there to feel. Even Clemson has struggled in Pittsburgh, and they've been prominently dominant in the ACC. And Pitt's given them some games. It's very interesting. And then Duke, I mean. If we lose to Pitt, could we bounce back and beat Duke? Sure. But there's also the possibility of what if we lose and then we lose that one too. The schedule is very interesting. You get your breaks and then you don't. I think the two key games that I think are must-haves if we want to have a successful season is I think we need to beat Notre Dame and I think we need to beat Kentucky. I think those are two games that will probably determine where we finish.
I mean, that's a great assessment of the schedule. I mean, people talk about that the schedule is easy. And it is when you compare it to other schedules around the country, that the teams that have ridiculously hard schedules, like an Ole Miss, they got a really hard schedule this year. A lot of the Big Ten teams have hard schedules. It's a lot easier, but it doesn't mean that it's like a pushover schedule, right? Oh, Louisville's going to be favored in almost every game. And maybe that's just a testament to the fact that Louisville's not a top-tier ACC team as of now anyway. But still, there are a lot of winnable games. There's barely a game on this schedule where you can say Louisville doesn't have a shot to win. I mean, even the Notre Dame game, it's at Louisville. They have a shot. They can win. And at Pitt and at NC State, they're not impossible, but they're still hard games. And like you said, the fact that those are back to back to back, that's not easy. Louisville could lose all three. They could win two of the three. You just never know. But like you said as well, there's other sneaky games. Kentucky, I mean, how good are they going to be? You know, they've struggled last couple of years, but Kentucky's still a pretty solid team. Stoops has done a good job there. Then you talk about at Miami. I mean, at Miami's an underrated game because Miami's a team that with their talent, they could beat Louisville. But the problem with Miami is that they're inconsistent, and sometimes they play down to their competition, and that could allow Louisville to win. So that's one of those games that you just have no idea. Plus, we don't even know how good these teams are going to look by that time. It's a late in the year game. Miami could be a lot better than we think, and that changes perception of that game. But as of now, I mean, you would think Louisville will have a shot. And then Georgia Tech starts the season. Louisville should be favored. It's not super easy, but, you know, Georgia Tech's got a first-year head coach as well. But it will be interesting. Indiana's not a complete pushover. I mean, Indiana's a team that has a lot of question marks, but it's not super easy. So it's a tough schedule in the fact that there's a lot of games that Louisville could win or lose. It's an easy schedule because it's easier than most of the other schedules in college football, but it's still not like, again, it's not a pushover schedule. It's some tough games, but that's going to make it fun to watch Louisville this year because there's barely a game that you can just pencil off and say they can't win. A lot of these games are winnable. It will be fun to watch for sure. So we got the final 2023 record prediction for Louisville and final thoughts. Louisville, pretty fairly easy schedule, not too bad. But what do you think Louisville's record prediction will be in 2023?
So I'm going to be faithful to my prediction I made on my ACC prediction show on my channel, which, by the way, I got great content coming out, which we'll get to that in a minute. Not to self-promote ahead, but I picked 8-4 and 5-3. I think we're going to start 4-0, and I think we're going to lose at NC State. I think Notre Dame's going to beat us. I think we lose at Pitt. So there's 3 right there. And then I think, as much as I don't like to say this, I really don't. But I think, see, that's 3 losses right there. I think, honestly, we might slip up to either Miami or possibly Kentucky gets us again. I'm going to say 8-4 and 5-3 in conference. I think that's a fair assessment. I don't want to be too optimistic and say, oh, we're going 10-2. We're going to tear the world down. Look out, here we come. I'm going to say 8-4, going to be faithful to my prediction. Take after example from the young man next to me. When you make a prediction, try to stick to it. I almost wanted to predict them as 7-5, just so you don't get your expectations too high. But I think 8-4 is fair. You know, could we beat Notre Dame? Sure, because their schedule, the way we're sandwiched in there, we could be maybe a trap game. Could we be them coming off a big win, celebrating too much? We could get them. I don't think we're going to go to Pittsburgh and beat them. That's a game I don't see us winning. I think we should beat Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, at Miami. It should be interesting. What Miami are we going to get? Are we going to get the Miami that plays Clemson tough? Sometimes we're going to get the Miami that loses to Middle Tennessee State.
And by the way, against Duke.
Yes, 8 turnovers against Duke. I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm sure Miami fans love that you brought that up. So that's going to be interesting. And then Kentucky, please beat them. Please. I beg you, can we beat Kentucky? I'm tired of them saying they're the best in football and basketball. We used to own football. That used to be our calling card. Now they've taken both. We need something here. It's rough. It's rough out in the streets. But, yeah, I think 8-4, 5-3. What do you think, Jeffrey? Is that a good prediction, or are you thinking a little lower, a little higher, or does that sound about right?
I think it's a solid prediction. I mean, 8-4 is not crazy, especially with the schedule. It's not outlandish. A lot of games that they can win, a lot of games they can slip up in. But I'd have to go with Jackson's prediction of 7-5. I think they're going to lose 5 games. If this wasn't Jeff Brohm's first season, I would probably go 8-4, maybe even 9-3 if it was like year 3, year 4, and he's got, maybe some more talent than he has right now. He's got some really good players, but maybe not enough depth potentially at some positions. Maybe later in the year it could get some injuries. Who knows? But I mean, I think they're going to start out possibly 4-0. I think they can do that. Even beating Indiana, I think they can do that. And then those next 3 games, I mean, I don't want to pick them to lose all 3, but all 3 of those games are really hard. And I mean, even if they beat like an NC State, they could still lose to an Indiana. So I mean, it's like you swap that. I don't see Notre Dame or Pittsburgh. And then it's like between Duke, Miami, Kentucky, I could see them losing 2 of those 3 possibly. So that would put them at 7-5, and either 5-3 or 4-4. In the conference, either or. I think that they'll have a solid season. They're going to make a bowl game, and they could go 8-4. You could be right, but I'd have to go with 7-5. I think that too many tricky games, and a lot of those teams just have more, experienced head coaches at that school and maybe more talent. So I think it will be a lot of close games for Louisville, but 7-5, 8-4. But I'd have to go with 7-5. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Louisville's football schedule in 2023 and what record you think that the Louisville Cardinals will achieve in college football this season. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.